Hey all, Michael Black Snow Comics here. Happy New Year. Today is New Year's Day 2020, the start of a new decade, debatably apparently, but that's where we're at. That means the 365-day challenge is done. So we're going to take a look at what I drew in December. And as always, I invite you to visit blacksnowcomic.com, and you could go to the 2019 Daily Drawing Challenge gallery, which is what we'll be looking at here. And if you follow along, you could look at it closer on your computer in more detail, and kind of use this as like a commentary. Anyway, let's take a look at what I did. So I started off the month with a pretty popular drawing that I was pretty happy with. It's a kind of cute one. So it's the Iron Giant and Baymax. Baymax giving him a hug. I never really watched the Iron Giant that closely. I watched it with my daughter several times because she really was into it. So I wanted to draw that, and it kind of reminded me of Baymax with kind of the sentient feeling robot. So I thought that was a fun little thing. People like that quite a bit. Then my son asked me to draw South Park. So here's the four main South Park characters, and I wanted to try to kind of add a little more detail to them since they're so simplistic, since they started out as just construction paper. But I made the background a little more traditional where there's no lines to it or anything. I like the way they look. Cartman's looking very angry here and a little more detailed, but still very obvious who they are. And then I did Crow and Tom Servo, Mystery Science Theater 3000. I grew up on this show, really pretty big fan. I have a lot of fun memories watching it with my dad, and then my good friend Alex that I started Black Snow Comics with, he was a real big fan, so we'd watch together, trade tapes. We went to a live theater event where they were doing a thing with it. Well, it was technically Riff Tracks. I backed it on Kickstarter when it came back, so love the show. Love the robots. Thought this was a fun little thing to draw. And then Baby Yoda, this was a request. Everyone was drawing Baby Yoda. I was thinking of avoiding it just because it's so overdone, but someone really wanted to see it, so I did it. And I decided to do it a little different and make it much more of like a cutesy cartoony, since I thought that fit kind of the character, and went kind of more simplistic with it, and I think it's actually pretty adorable. I don't do a lot of like cutesy drawings. It's usually not my focus, so I was pretty happy with the way that one turned out. So then I decided I wanted to kind of step into some more original stuff. My time was running out. I'd spent a lot of time on fan art. I hadn't really gotten to explore some things I'm interested in, or some things I just felt like doing. So I just wanted to do something different. So this is an Easter Island head, and I kind of gave it an 80s punk flair and tried to find like a very vibrant 80s background. I was going for something like pretty specific, something that I would have like worn on a shirt as a kid. I think it looks pretty cool. My wife right away thought it was Bebop, and I did kind of think of that a little bit. I didn't do the exact same kind of nose ring that Bebop has, and I wasn't really going for that, but Bebop is very classic 80s punk with his mohawk and shades. And then I followed that up with another kind of 80s punk inspired one, and this one I really like. It's one of my backgrounds on my phone now. So this is a skull with a mohawk, and I like this bright pink background. Also, I started a Redbubble store, so if you like any of these, pretty much all of them that weren't copyrighted are on the store. So some of them, there's no color behind them. This one, I made it bright pink here, but on the store I went with kind of a bright orange. Just I thought it was also a good contrast, and I thought maybe more people would be open to wearing orange than pink. But I really like the way this one looks. It's pretty cool. And by now, you should have caught on. I really like drawing skulls. I find skulls pretty fascinating, and I like punk quite a bit. So I thought this was a pretty cool mixture. And I like skulls with open mouth, and you can see he's got a missing tooth and stuff. I hadn't drawn a skull in profile yet. And then once I did that, I felt like drawing more skeletons, so I went for it, and I wanted to draw like a dramatically posed skeleton, so this one's like staring up to the sky in kind of a dramatic way. And again, I like them better with the mouth open. And I wanted to do something where I knew I wanted the background to be a solid black, and I wanted it to be a bright neon color. I tried a couple, but green was always the one I kind of envisioned. I thought it looked really cool. And this is my other phone background right now. And this is one of the favorite things I've put on Redbubble, because this is like a pretty awesome hoodie or t-shirt or whatever. But I really like the way this turned out. It's kind of reminiscent of like some album artwork or different things that I've liked in the past. So I think that's pretty cool. And I wanted to keep going and do something just original and fun. My wife and I, when the kids are sad, especially when they're little, and they kind of give you we call that the bulldog when they're sad. So in my mind already, I had it like the sad bulldog face. So I took a guy who was sad at the bar and gave him a bulldog head. I like when you mix the human body with dog heads. That's something that you see with my character Detective Redmond in Black Snow. Something you see pop up various times in pop culture. I think it's kind of a cool look. So that's what we got going on here. And I've drawn a lot of sad drunks at the bar, so that was a different take on it. So this was kind of a tribute drawing. My daughter's a huge fan of Sesame, so I watch all the time. I was a pretty big fan when I was a kid. Big Bird, the actor that did Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch, passed away. So I wanted to do something to kind of play tribute to that, so I did this Big Bird drawing. And it's surprising when I looked back at how many like puppets and Muppets and things I've drawn this year. Not something I would have thought when I was setting out to do it. Then I wanted to keep going with more original things, less fan art. So I wanted to draw like a mushroom person. I wanted to be kind of like a scary mushroom person. And the first thing that comes to mind with like if you're turning a mushroom into a kind of a living animal type thing or man type thing is that top being the head. So I made kind of a bulbous top head and gave him some primitive little spear and wooden shield here, and gave him kind of a menacing face, and I like the way that turned out. And then keeping up with the same kind of idea, I wanted to make another kind of forest fantasy creature, but I wanted to make something pretty different. And I first focused on the eye, and I came up with the eye, and this was kind of like stream of consciousness drawing where I was just kind of going and building on things. I didn't really have a solid vision in mind. I just knew I wanted it to be something with a single large eye. And then as I went with it, I wanted it to be really kind of cute and gross at the same time. So to me, this is that. Like it seems very soft and squishy and kind of friendly, but it's also kind of disgusting. I think I was pretty successful with that one. Then people were pretty happy with this one, and I gotta say this is also another cool shirt. I'm not trying to convince you to go buy my stuff. If you want to buy it, you can, but this one looks pretty awesome. So this is a Cthulhu, H.P. Lovecraft creature. It's kind of like a giant god, a winged octopus type creature. And again, I wanted to do my black background with very limited kind of lighting, and I like the way it looked in purple here. That's something I've gone to a lot over the years. It's one of my favorite styles to draw in, and I don't think you see it a ton, so it's something that stands out a little bit. And continuing with some more original stuff, I wanted to do a gas mask. I like gas masks. There's a few different styles, but I settled on this one because it's kind of very iconic, and I wanted a skull to be wearing it. So I wanted to make sure that you were able to tell that by looking through kind of the glass eye hole area. And on the sides. So I did try to make it like a pretty realistic drawing here. This one I think looks pretty cool. These drawings like this, if you're looking for like meaning behind them, I don't try to be explicit with like a message usually. It's more just whatever you want to apply to it. Okay, so the next one, I wanted to do a great white shark. I like sharks. I like Shark Week and all that stuff. I like fish and things. I spent a few years working in pet stores that sold tropical fish. It's always been a hobby. So I wanted to do that. I like drawing kind of nature things when I get a chance. So I wanted to get a great white popping out. Pretty good. I like the way that one came out. And then Christmas, of course, is upon us. So I wanted to do a few Christmas kind of things. So I went back to the fan art and did the Grinch. I'm a big fan of the Chuck Jones Grinch original special. I really love the style of it, so I wanted to capture kind of the Grinch's personality in one of his classic poses here when he's sticking out of that chimney. So I like the way this one turned out. Yeah, what can you say? Everyone knows the Grinch. Then I wanted to do something different. So this is The Amazing Screw-On Head, which was a one-off by Mike Mignola. And they did actually make a pilot for a TV show for it that you can find on YouTube that actually is pretty good. I would have watched it, but I really like Amazing Screw-On Head. It's classic Mignola, all his favorite things. Zombies, monkeys, old school technology. The head here is the main character, and it can screw onto different bodies or things. Abraham Lincoln commands him to like help things out. It's very fun. Check it out if you never have. And then since I was back into doing some things that I like that I didn't get time to show my fandom for yet, I did Conquer here. This is kind of at the end of the game when he's angry and on the throne. I like that look a lot, and I like the tilted crown look. I think that's pretty cool. It's something you see pop up every once in a while, but I wanted to capture that here. And well, he does look maybe a little funny. I still like the way it turned out. Then my son asked me to draw this. We found these bizarre Thomas the Tank Engine robots on YouTube where people have taken crazy crab-like, spider-like robots and put Thomas on them, and this particular one has a actual functioning laser that you see like burn things. There's one with a flamethrower. There's all kinds of weird stuff. So if you're feeling brave, hop on YouTube and type in like Thomas the Tank Engine robot or Thomas the Tank Engine mech, and you'll see this kind of bizarre stuff. That was kind of fun to draw just because there's a lot of details and stuff with it. Then I hadn't drawn a Grim Reaper yet, so I wanted to get to that. And I decided I wanted to do another black background. I wanted this to be more simple, where it's just black and white and kind of detailed. I was thinking of, like, to me, this is something that would make a cool decal. As I said, I had recently started selling stuff on that store, so I was also thinking of designs that would look cool. In fact, on that store, there's a couple variants of this where I did it. There's no background behind it, so you can put it on different things. So there's one where all the white here is basically black, but less detailed. There's a white one, kind of like, there's a few different variants. It's kind of cool. So check that out if you're interested. Then, like I said, Christmas coming. Want to do something kind of fun, but I like to keep it spooky when I can. So this is Krampus, and I went back and forth on if I wanted him to have. He's depicted many different ways, so I went back and forth if I wanted him to have kind of a grayscale skin tone or red, but I decided pale green really kind of made him stand out and would look nice with the red. And then you got your Christmas contrast, and show kind of the gums and the red eyes and make his tongue stand out. And I wanted his tongue to be really long and gave him some kind of big pointed down horns. And he's pretty, I'd be scared if I was a kid and thought that might come for me. And then owls, that's something I want to incorporate into one of my comics in kind of an interesting way in the future. But I don't want to give it away, I guess. Although if you read my blog, you would know. But when I went to the zoo the day before and saw some owls, and it made me think of like the barn owls and kind of that pale moon face and kind of the way they look at you. And in the past, like I said, with a few other ones, I like the tilted head look. So I wanted to get one of them kind of giving you a tilted head look. And it's both kind of beautiful and spooky at the same time, which is something I like. And then I decided to go full Christmas since we're getting pretty close to Christmas at this point. And we had just watched Muppet Christmas Carol, so I was in a Christmas Carol mood and decided I wanted to do a representation of Jacob Marley. And I wanted to make it kind of cartoony and fun. And I really been focusing on colors lately. I gave it a lot of thought, like when I was doing those 80s punk style things. I thought about it a lot here, where I really wanted to ghosts are traditionally shades of blue or green, and I wanted to play with that here and also mix in some purples, and I really like the way this one came out. This is pretty cool. And then it wouldn't be Christmas without the Christmas Story Marathon, and my dad is a big fan, so I grew up with it even before they would do the marathon. So I wanted to draw the famous leg lamp there, and this was kind of a fun challenge. I like the way it came out. I used a texture to kind of get that fishnet, since I didn't want to sit there drawing each little individual. But the rest of it is just hand-drawn stuff. And I'll make a little confession right now. Since I knew I was going to be pretty busy and traveling around for Christmas, I drew a couple things a little in advance. So I know it breaks the drawing each thing every day. I did have to do that, not very often, just a handful of times this year. But I did that here, just to make things a little easier on myself. So then I drew the Peanuts Christmas tree, the famous Charlie Brown Christmas tree. You can see it's got the single ornament, and it's a scrawny little thing. And I like the message of that, being appreciative for what you've got here and the spirit of Christmas. I like the Charlie Brown Christmas special, even though parts of it are kind of weird, like the religious overtones, but that's part of Christmas. And then for Christmas Day, I did Clark Griswold from Christmas Vacation, because that's one of my favorite Christmas movies. It's just really funny. Chevy Chase. I thought it'd be funny to just have Chevy Chase's head here with the big Santa hat. And like I said, these were a couple that I was doing a little in advance. That tree and that Chevy Chase head. And then I want to finish it, even though this was the day after Christmas, I want to get Santa Jack in there, because I like Nightmare Before Christmas, and my son's a big fan. And there's a few variations of Jack Skellington. So we got the Santa Claus one here. And Jack's fun and interesting to draw just because he's so thin and lanky and long. And then add to that this long beard and hat. It's kind of fun to draw. And then we're getting pretty close to the end here, only a couple left. This is the mascot for Comedy Bang Bang. Comedy Bang Bang, when it was on, was one of my favorite TV shows, and I've been rewatching it lately on Netflix. And I listened to the podcast for years and years. I don't listen to it as much now, but I still catch it every now and then. And I always liked their logo guy a lot, so I wanted to try drawing that. And it's pretty cool. When I put it on Twitter, Scott Aukerman retweeted it, and it got a lot of likes and got a little bit of attention. And tried to pose them in kind of a fun way, give it still very recognizable if you are familiar with it. And then I wanted to do a few more original things before time was up and do some more skull stuff. So I did this astronaut, and this is another one where I have variations on the Redbubble store where you could get it with the skull or without the skull, and I changed up the way kind of the lighting hit it on the helmet without the skull to make it more reflective. But I didn't want to go. At first I was going to have the helmet broken and really reveal the skull, but then I thought it was kind of cool to just show limited details of the shadow of the skull in there. And space stuff's always cool. It's inherently surreal just because it's hard to wrap your head around it since it's not something we can experience ourselves. And I like the idea of this dead astronaut just floating out there. And then I did a self-portrait, kind of a spooky one, where you could see my head unzipping and my skull popping out. And as I've said a few times now, I like drawing skulls. There's something really cool about the design. I tried to make it pretty realistic with this skull. I didn't make it super dark so you could see in the kind of cavities. And then I went back and forth. At first I was going to have like ripping the head open and skull coming out, but it was pretty complicated. Would have taken more time and maybe been a little too gruesome. So I like the zipper idea. It's kind of fun. And then we only got 2 left. So I did another self-portrait. This one, I went back to my black and white that I like to do with the limited lighting. And this is kind of based off of all those film noirs where you have the blinds filtering light and it's crossing over the characters' faces. To do this, I took a reference photo of myself in front of my closet that has a slotted door where light filters through, so I could kind of get an idea of how light would play on my face. And I wanted it to be like very limited lighting from one distinct source, so I think that turned out pretty cool. And then I wrapped it up with one last fan art, one of my favorites here, Calvin and Hobbes. This is the comic that I read as a kid all the time. I would read it with my grandpa. He would buy the collected books and we'd read them together. I'd read it in the newspaper. I would read newspaper comics pretty much every day when I was a kid and read them all. I'd read almost all of them, even though I only thought a few of them were really good or funny. But Calvin and Hobbes was always my favorite. It had the most exciting art style where things were just kind of beautiful and imaginative. It also had interesting messages and could be kind of inspiring. It was also funny, and the premise was just interesting too. So that I wanted to end on that, since that was one of the things that really inspired me to start drawing, and to show you how much Calvin and Hobbes means to me. You can see I've got it tattooed right there. So that's how I wanted to end things. And that is it. That was December. I will put out a final video just talking about kind of my overall experience and what it's like to do this every day for a year, and give some thoughts on that. But I guess that's it for right now. Everyone who kind of followed along and made requests or told me they like something, I thank you. A lot of people asking me if I'm doing it again this year. No. Taking a little break. I haven't drawn anything today yet, which feels a little weird. But I do plan on drawing a lot. Maybe focusing on my comics, and I'll still do art prints and stuff, commissions if people want those. But I'll probably take ones that take a little more time, take a few days worth of time and a little more planning, versus just pumping something out rapid fire. By the end of this, I got pretty good at it, where a lot of these would take me between like half hour to an hour to do. So that was kind of nice. So that's it for now, and I'll catch you later.